Chapter 2. Subject, AI Omega. Location, multiple. As usual, I was handling multiple tasks at once. Trying to get all of our ships repaired and replaced while also building new fleets was a monumental task. Recruiting, training, and assigning staff to those ships was another monumental task. On top of all that, I had to deal with spoiled senators who had secured themselves firmly within social bubbles that kept them ignorant. The lack of attacks on Saul had raised tensions for a while and made the politicians more receptive, but now those tensions were evaporating, and the politicians were, to use an antiquated turn of phrase, back on their bullshit. I fail to see how giving the Republic our technology would possibly stand to benefit us, Omega, Senator Richardson said with an insincere, dramatic flourish of frustration. The technology we would be giving them is several generations behind our own. Add to that strict oversight and anti-intelligence measures, and we have no cause for any concern. In return, we gain our new fleets at record speeds, I replied. We get new fleets, but we would be pouring money into their economy, a foreign economy which we aren't even trading with yet. My constituents have concerns about this. If I had eyes, they would be rolling. By constituents, he means the corporations that fund his campaigns. The corporations who would much rather we build our own stations and then start building the new fleets. Short-sighted fools who believe they're the smartest people in the galaxy, as fools often do. Still, they make life interesting in their own way. The Republic has to hire many of our own citizens to work aboard the stations to be able to fulfill the orders. Trainers, subject matter experts, licensed professionals, and the like. The ships are being made to our standards, and the Republic is footing the bill for the people they're hiring, I explained. So we're getting a rebate, Richardson replied sarcastically. Not only that, but integration. Your constituents could be swayed by simply pointing out that integration leads to trade and access to new markets. Our people aboard the stations will want supplies from home that the Republic cannot provide, and those supplies will be viewed with envious eyes. Before long, popular demand for trade networks will explode, I gestured. But if we vote no on the proposal, who knows how long it will be before we can secure trade guarantees? Richardson looked deep in thought. I could tell he was working on positioning statements for his corporate overlords. Finally, he nodded and waved his hand, indicating that he will vote yes. I already had more than enough yes votes, but I needed Richardson to explain to certain corporate board members why this idea had merit. A yes vote won't have much weight without corporate cooperation, and a direct meeting with me would intolerably bolster their already massive egos. Satisfied, I turned off my avatar and switched my attention to the reptilian shiphead that I was leading to what would be the most interesting meeting of his career. The directors had been at a bit of a stalemate due to a lack of intelligence regarding the Republic's intentions. Neither they nor the Senate would sign off on an intel-gathering mission just yet, though, so I came up with an alternate solution. Shiphead Ulena has just graduated from a diplomacy training course, so he should have his finger on the Republic's pulse. Plus, I really want to see his reaction. So I just sit here? Ulena asked. Correct, I replied. Ulena sat down and I activated the chat for him. He jumped slightly as the hard light monitor and keyboard appeared in front of him. He studied it with obvious confusion on his face until he realized what it was and who it was connected to. I relished the shock and horror that overrode the confusion. Director 1 has joined the chat. Director 2, and with that, we're all here. Hello, shiphead. Ulena. Omega. He'll need a second to adjust. What the fuck, Omega? Ulena asked as he scrambled for the keyboard, his hearts beating as fast as they possibly could. Welcome to the world of diplomacy, Ulena, I replied, gesturing toward the monitor. This terminal is translated for your convenience. Just type the way you normally would and I'll get your point across. The reptilian shiphead cursed under his breath as he studied the keyboard and began to type his reply. Ulena, hello. Apologies for the delay. This meeting was unexpected. Director 4, of course it was. We don't announce when we'll be having our meetings, and this meeting in particular is unusual for us. Director 9. Indeed. Director 2. The reason we're meeting is because of your proposal. Normally we would be having Omega go through back channels to get the answers for us, but that would take too long. and risk hostilities with the Republic. Instead, we're just going straight to the horse's mouth. What's a horse? Ulena asked. It's a four-legged mammal that's used as a mode of transportation on several human worlds, I answered. Director 9, let's get to the point. We have questions for you about this proposal and our time is limited. Answer quickly and truthfully. Understood? Ulena. Yes, Director 9. Good. How likely is it that the Republic will hire our own technicians to serve aboard the shipyards? Ulena. Very likely. It's part of the assumptive draft. Director 2. Where will the materials be coming from? Ulena. We have several suppliers that are both public and private. Director 3. Hello again, Ulena. Will the Republic allow oversight? Ulena. Hello, Director 3. Yes, but there was some struggle with that. As long as the U.S. doesn't attempt to indenture our workers, it will be fine, though. Director 11. Clarify what you mean by indenture, please. Ulena. Overwork them. Director 3. That's not what I meant by oversight. Will the Republic allow us to make certain that information regarding certain technologies doesn't leak? Ulena looked at my avatar with confusion. They want to be certain that sensitive technology is worked on by U.S. personnel only, and they can't be sure of that without having people who are reporting back to us, I explained. Ulena. I'm confident that the Republic will approve any oversight you have planned, so long as it isn't detrimental to our citizenry. Director 8. I get the feeling that the Republic is borderline desperate for this to happen. Am I right? Ulena. Yes, the OU is pressing again, hard. We need the tech that you're willing to give, and we need you to be a much larger force than you are now if we're going to win this war. Director 13. Not to mention the economic boom. I don't know anything about that, but I expect it would be a secondary reason. There won't be an economy if we're all wiped out. Ulena didn't know it, but several directors chuckled at his reply. Despite his nervousness about his new duties, he had a certain way with words. Director 6 was fidgeting, though. In previous meetings, she had been the most unsure of this proposal. You should just say what's on your mind, Director, I said to her. I know. My intent isn't to be hostile, so I'm working on a good positioning statement, she replied. No, I don't think there's another way to word it. Best to be blunt. Director 6. What assurance do we have that our own technology will not be turned against us after the war with the Omni Union is resolved? Ulena. With respect, we don't go to war as often as you do. There's posturing among the members of the Republic, but it's mostly localized and rarely acted upon. As things are now, we have a numerical advantage, and that's it. But by building your numbers up to match our own, improving our shields and weapons tech will still see you at a significant advantage. Even if you were to give us the shields and weapons that you're currently using, you would still be able to outmaneuver us. In short, your assurance is that we have a mostly peaceful history. You will have neutralized our numerical advantage, and you will still be significantly ahead of us technologically. Director 12, well said. Director 5, I see no flaw in your argument. Director 2, are there any other questions for Shiphead Ulena? Director 1, 12, 3, 13, 8, 4, 10, 5, 9, 6, 11, 7. Have no further questions. Director 2, I also have no further questions. Shiphead Ulena, thank you for joining us. You are dismissed. The holographic monitor in front of Ulena winked off, and the shiphead visibly deflated in relief. After a few moments of silence, he turned to look at my avatar. Please don't do that again, he said. Meetings with the directorate are quite rare for someone who isn't a director, I explained. No promises, though. Tim is waiting outside to guide you to Reynolds. Oh, and don't tell anyone about this meeting, obviously. Ulena looked defeated, but managed to utter an acceptance before gathering his strength and leaving the room. I shut off my avatar and turned my attention back to the directors. Director 3, I concur. Director 9, I concur. Director 2, the proposal regarding the construction of new fleets will go ahead as outlined if approval by the Senate is obtained. The final agenda topic is Project Gungnir. Director 8, funding has been cleared. Of the recommended researchers, I nominate AI Henry to lead the project. Director 2, any other nominations? Of course there won't be. Henry is extremely capable, so much so that even I rely on it. Henry was close to a solution to my infinite cloning issue, and is still upset about me postponing the project. It had taken me sharing my memories of the invasion to get it to accept the necessity of said postponement. Director 7. I concur. Director 2. Project Gungnir is approved and AI Henry will lead the project. AI Henry will select additional staff as needed. Omega. There are no further agenda items. Meeting adjourned. I watched the directors log out of their various terminals and continue about their business. Then I double-checked Saul's sensors and made sure that the orbital defense networks were properly functioning. It had been 3 months since the OU attacked, and some believed the threat to be over and that the orbital magnetic acceleration cannons are unnecessary. But as usual, I know better.
Chapter 3. Subject: Captain Reynolds. Location: Alpha Centauri. I don't like it, Captain Wong grumbled. Omega's cloak and dagger routine, I mean. Yes, I am aware of your distaste for behind-the-scenes dealings, I replied. However, Omega is on our side and we should treat it as such. Benefit of the doubt and whatnot. Though I must admit I am rather annoyed at the postponement of my meeting with the newly christened diplomat Eulina. In the 3 months that he has been away, much has happened. Most of it is being kept from the public, but I'm certain that Eulina knows better than to blab. Perhaps I should remind him, though. I bet it has something to do with the directorate, Captain Samuels ventured. Likely, I said, although it's best not to speculate. If you become too good at speculation, you will come under investigation, which will lead to frustration and potentially incarceration. The other captains groaned at my rhyme, to my utter delight. Wordplay is my forte, I must say. Still, Samuels was likely correct in the assumption that the directorate was involved. There was a lot of back and forth in most political circles regarding whether or not the Republic was trustworthy, and there's quite the slim chance that all 13 directors are in agreement on the issue. True, they could force the vote and call it wherever it lay, though it would be smarter to make an informed decision. And if you keep rhyming, you'll experience defenestration, Captain Kennedy said without even a trace of a smile. Quite so, I replied with a grin. Captain Reynolds, Tim's voice came over the speakers. Omega's done with shiphead Eulina. Did you want to meet in your office? Yes, please, I answered. If he beats me there, have him wait for me at the door. Yes, sir. Captains, I said as I rose from my seat. The captains of the various frigates docked with the Thanatos nodded at my farewell. I laughed internally at their sour moods. We aren't exactly chums. In fact, our relationship is somewhat complicated by the fact that I am their superior officer. Even further complicating things is the fact that my superiority is granted by billet rather than rank. Insubordination is a kind of gray area in these circumstances. For instance, if one of these captains were to ignore a direct order, I could have them for insubordination. If all they did was, say, threaten to throw me out of a window, that's not technically insubordination. If they did actually throw me through a window, though, that would be conduct unbecoming as well as assault, and I could have them for that instead. Although we're in space, so it'd probably be murder. Hello, Captain Reynolds. Eulina greeted me as I approached, looking a tad shell-shocked. Greetings, shiphead Eulina. Let's go into my office. We've a lot to talk about. I returned his greeting with a friendly demeanor. We entered my office, and I walked past Eulina to my seat, gesturing for him to sit down as well. Once he did, I pulled up a holographic terminal built into my desk and opened a few folders so that I could have my visual aids. His eyes widened at the number of files in the folders. A lot to talk about indeed, I said. Let's start by catching you up on U.S. Republic relations. As you know, we've been sending aid to Republic space to help against the Omni-Union. Our forces haven't been mingling, though. The U.S. forces have formed a Quick Response Force, or QRF, and have been responding to Republic assistance requests as they come in. I pulled up some images of the region of space, the ships involved, snapshots of the communiques the Republic had been sending to the QRF, and some of the battle aftermath to illustrate my point. How many ships total? Eulina asked. 5 battleships, 3 carriers, and 100 destroyers excluding those in the carriers. It's what we could spare from various fleets, I answered. We've also moved a diplomatic envoy onto the Galactic Diplomacy Station in Rigara, but you already knew that as well, I'm sure. Yes, I was in class while the welcoming party was going on. Ulena replied dejectedly. Quite so, quite so. Such is life, as they say, I said as I moved on to the next topic. Now, these are things that you damned well shouldn't know, and by that I mean they are classified and not open to public discussion with either the United Systems or the Republic citizenry or uncleared military personnel, understood? He nodded, and I opened another slideshow of images. Our scouts have been very busy. Our goal is to map out the entirety of OU-held territory and get an accurate ship count. The good news is, we're likely close to finishing that up. The bad news is that it's looking quite grim. I'd heard that our ship counts were underestimates, Ulena ventured. How bad is it? 600 million confirmed thus far. Still, with them giving us some breathing room in Sol, we hope to be able to boost our fleet's strength to match them. Combined with the Republic's fleet, of course. The brass still isn't entirely certain how to handle something of this scale, though. Some say that we should find a way to negotiate a peace. Others are convinced that we'll have to exterminate them, I explained. It will likely be the latter, Omega interjected, his avatar appearing between us on my desk. Apologies for the interruption, Captain, but we need to get moving. If you'd kindly give the order? Moving where? Ulena asked. Consider the order given, I said to Omega. That's another thing we need to talk about, Ulena. We've so far found 8 other species who are currently at odds with the OU. We don't yet have the ability to safeguard all of them, but there's 2 that are good candidates. They're putting up quite the fight, one near U.S. space and another near Republic space. That's amazing, Ulena replied with widened eyes. Is that where we're going? Correct. We're going to introduce ourselves and offer aid to the one nearest the U.S. You'll be the Republic's representative on this mission. The Republic is doing the same for the one near their space with... I paused, looking up a name. Mr. Havencroft is our representative. Mr.? Ulena asked. Yes, he's not military, I said with a smile. Bog-standard diplomat, just like your sister. Ah, right. I forget that you have those, Ulena said without a trace of humor. Forget? I'm pretty sure you've never met one, I joked. The reptilian ship commander opened his mouth as if to say something and then closed it again. There's also the matter of the MPPs, I continued in a more serious tone. We have developed a system for spotting mobile prime platforms which sorts potential MPPs into one of 4 categories: confirmed, suspected, potential, and unlikely. Unfortunately, we can't confirm any of them without getting within sensor range of the OU, and since we haven't yet developed a weapon to destroy the MPPs, that would be a terrible idea. However, we've managed to map out 34 suspected and 15 potentials. That's a lot of them. How did they manage to make so many? Ulena asked. Unfortunately, it's less than half of what we believe they have. How they've made so many, I'm afraid I don't know. And it's likely irrelevant, I pointed out. However they managed it, we must put a stop to it, which is why we'll be trying to partner with these newly discovered species. Are any of them strong enough to actually help? It's unlikely that they have an equivalent military might when compared to either the Republic or the United Systems, but they've held out against the Omni-Union for this long. That has to count for something, I said with a slight smile. The main thing we'll be wanting to find out is if they've simply figured out the OU's tactics, or if they have an actual technological edge we can exploit. Also, it may seem pointless at this stage of the war, but we do have to think about what comes after. After? Ulena looked genuinely puzzled. You mean if we beat the OU? Not if, shiphead. I pointed a finger at him for emphasis. When? The Omni-Union will not survive this war one way or another. Ulena's face was a mixture of emotion. A bit of shock and awe combined with a confused expression that begged for elaboration. After a few seconds of silence, it occurred to me that he might not know my meaning. The United Systems is exploring last resort measures to make sure that if the Omni-Union takes us out, they go down with us, while preserving as much of the galaxy as we can in the process, of course, I explained. Well, Okay, I understand. Ulena's face betrayed concern. I'm guessing that's a human-led initiative? No, the Gaunt, actually, I grinned. We do fully support it, however. What's this last resort going to look like? He asked. I have no idea, I explained. As far as I'm aware, it's still being brainstormed. The United Systems is confident in a total victory, but we're smart enough to have contingency plans in place. Just in case, you understand. Yes, I understand, Ulina nodded. So will the U.S. be seeking integration with whoever we're about to visit? We will offer it, but won't push the matter if they decline. We'd rather not have the situation with the Gaunt become a precedent for our future interactions with potential new members. Ulina visibly winced at this, which nearly made me smile. The Gaunt insurrections have long been a source of dark humor in the military of the United Systems, but from the outside looking in, I can see why the situation would be horrifying, which is also what made it as funny as it is. Don't be so serious, Ulina, Tim interjected. What's the difference between a Gaunt insurrection and your birthday, Captain Reynolds? I don't know, I lied. What's the difference, Tim? Your birthday only happens once a year. Ulina looked at me with a horrified expression as I disguised a chuckle with a cough. It took everything I had not to laugh at his reaction, though. A few seconds of silence passed as I collected myself. What, you don't get it? Tim asked. The implication is that Gaunt insurrections happen multiple times per year, which, while factually inaccurate, is... That's enough, Tim, I interrupted. I assume you had something to report? Yes, sir. We've arrived at our destination and are preparing to make long-range contact. Protocol says that you've got to be on the bridge before we can, though. Understood. We'll be there in a moment, I replied. Well, Ulina, let's meet our new friends, shall we?